So next, we are very excited to have a fireside chat here at Campfire 2025 with all of you, with Alec McNiff, who is the Senior Manager of Operations and Solutions at Bessemer. He and Rebecca, our CTO, are going to talk about how they're using AI and optimizing their tech stack to drive efficiencies for the firm. Please join me in giving a very warm welcome to Alec and Rebecca.
All right. Well, first of all, thank you, Alec, for joining me here. It's very exciting to talk to you about AI. And we had a little chat a while ago, but maybe you can start by telling the folks here a little bit more about your role and how you're, what you're focused on today.
Sure thing. Hi, everyone. I'm Alec. As mentioned in the introduction, I work on our operations portfolio solutions team. I think I can highlight just the three main aspects of our team's role. The first is monitoring our portfolio of 700 or so seed, pre-seed through buyout companies on a quarterly, yearly basis to feed kind of the second part of the team role, which is data, reporting, analytics, and process workflows across the firm. The third that I've spent a lot of the past 6 months on, and I think will fuel a lot of this conversation, is on deal flow, sourcing, tech stack, and building sourcing tools and IP for BDB.
So I'm going to assume that you're using AI. So maybe you can tell us at a high level how you're thinking about AI's role in that investment process.
Sure. For our industry being about investing in technology, I think sometimes we're not the best at adopting it. Bessemer is an RIA, so it took a long time to adopt AI tools, which I think like a lot of people who work for similarly large regulated firms can relate to. So it took us about a year into the ChatGPT, post-ChatGPT moment to start working with AI tools, but we've since caught up. The way that we did it initially, as like a tip or trick for anyone that's struggling with the same thing, is we downloaded a lot of them locally. So we didn't have kind of IT and compliance breathing down our necks about, for good reason, about data privacy and compliance risk. We eventually became more comfortable with a lot of the portfolio companies we invested in. Perplexity, Plotter, used at Bessemer, which are two of our larger portfolio companies. And we've taken those foundations and started building products as well. So we couldn't procure some of the cutting edge AI tools, so we decided to start building them. The way we've done this is like in three lanes, I would say. The first is building out infrastructure. So we've spent a lot of time building out a centralized data foundation in AWS and are just now actually implementing Databricks. AI made it really easy to build this. I'm not the most technical person in the world, but through hiring a team of nearshore engineers in the past 18 months and kind of arming them with Cursor, we built up a lot of infrastructure really, really quickly. The second is data. I think there's a lot of great AI data scraping tools, some of which I'm willing to divulge, and others I was told not to keep some of the secret sauce. And the third being process and workflow automation. So a lot of system integrators that just make it easier for investors in particular to move data from one system to another.
Nice. And you mentioned automations, but we know that investing is very relationship driven. So how do you balance this idea of AI automations with that relationship driven nature?
Yeah, it's one of the project that we have that builds some of these tools we call Brain, and we have product principles that we try to abide by. The first is that we want to enable and not prescribe, and we want humans in the loop and humans as judgment. So obviously, it's a very network-driven business, as you said, and the reason Bessemer is such an established firm is not because of the process and technology we leveraged internally. It's because of the relationships and of the partners and the impressive founders we work with. So what we've tried to do is just use technology as a way of amplifying our relationships and amplifying our networks to make certain connections, as you and Ken both astutely described in the keynote, to make certain connections easier to find that exist within your network because of who you are as an individual and the unique value you bring as an investor to the firm. But sometimes you just might need help finding those connections. On the enable versus prescribe piece, we have 70 investors, 20 different partners who are effectively 20 different CEOs. We have no kind of lead managing partner, and so we have 20 or 70 different processes. And so creating really flexible solutions has been really important for us in driving adoption. We do a lot of kind of what we call forward deployed engineers, which is when we have one of our engineers sit down with an investment team and really get to know how they work specifically so we can build out workflows around that. The Affinity CSM team's actually done the same thing with a lot of our different investment teams as well.
Yeah, it's a really powerful way to get that feedback loop, right?
Yeah.
Test out your ideas. Well, what technologies are showing the most promise for investors right now?
I think for us, it is wherever we allow investors to leverage AI in places where proprietary data exists. So we use, as I said, we have Claude and Perplexity, and people really love using those. But what we've yet to do is integrate a lot of our enterprise search capabilities into the front end tools. What we instead did out of compliance and info security was locally hosted a version of Claude and connect the MCP to all of our systems so that people can just query into Salesforce, into Affinity, into our data sources, just for quick natural language questions. That's what's been used the most by investors. In the, not to beat a dead horse, but in the enable versus prescribe piece as well, any tools that we can give investors or a lot of different functions across the organization to serve themselves with end up being highly adopted. So N8N is another tool that a lot of our investors have enjoyed using recently, is it creates just it removes a lot of steps from rather manual processes and redundant workflows.
Nice. And as you kind of rolled out new tools, and are there challenges or risks that you encountered that maybe you found workarounds for, or maybe you didn't?
Yeah. As I said, the compliance and info security are big emphasis. I'm sure everyone in the room can sympathize with. And what our IT and our CCO run a really good job of is creating frameworks to evaluate different tools based on. So if we receive a request for an LLM or a basic kind of enterprise search equivalent, there's a certain framework that we evaluate that tool through. The first step of the evaluation is feeding their security documents into Claude. And if it's an agentic tool, we evaluate that a different way, and that's helped accelerate our adoption of these pretty quickly. We have strict redlining and MSAs where we don't retain data or allow model training with any of our data. From a process standpoint, what's crazy about AI in the past 2 years is when it breaks, people get really, really pissed. So you have your first search and it's amazing, and then as soon as it doesn't work, the user will churn and move on. So to overcome that obstacle, we've done a lot of hands-on training in retraining product marketing internally at the firm with the tools that we've built. And I would say that the other fear among our leadership about adopting AI was we have a very large analyst program, and a lot of the partners pride themselves on being mentors and training kind of the next generation of software and technology investors. And we don't want people just writing all their memos using Perplexity or using Claude. We don't want people pulling the wrong data, inaccurate data, and putting it into one of our marketing pieces or putting it into a memo and then kind of pointing the finger at the tool that helped them pull this faulty data. So ensuring data accuracy and cleanliness is something that we've thought a lot about recently, and anytime we roll out a new tool, that's paramount to the mission of it. And the second is providing guidelines to our talent team, to investors, to marketing, to our internal infrastructure team of what you can use these tools for and what you can't. And for things for an analyst, for example, like we want to remove the parts of their job that really don't maximize value. So if they're all kind of scraping the same blogs, we'll just scrape those companies from the blogs and from the newsletters and provide them with those so that they can spend more time having introductions, meeting people, building relationships. We'll apply AI to those workflows. We generally won't to like memo creation, and I know a lot of other firms do, and I don't think there's anything wrong with it, but given that there's such a strong emphasis on like doing the work from the beginning of your career in order to eventually be able to lead the firm, that has been key to distinguish what you can use it for and what you can't.
Yeah, we of course deal with that a lot. Software engineering too, like how, what code are you allowed to commit that an LLM wrote versus you fully understand. So yeah. So I actually want to dig in a little bit. You said that you took all of your security and compliance documentation and seeded the AI with it, so it just always has that context at all times.
Yeah.
That feels like a really practical first step for people who are concerned about the LLMs going haywire or something, like just telling it initially, like, these are the rules.
Exactly, like for specific tasks, what everyone's been saying is just the more context, the better. So the more of your own data securely that you can train some of the more broad models on, the better. And we, if I haven't pumped it enough, Perplexity is a portfolio of ours, and we have these challenges at the firm where people create unique spaces, they're called in Perplexity, or like artifacts in Claude or projects in ChatGPT, and you feed it with your own data, and then you train it just to do a workflow of yours, and then submit it to a panel of judges, and we have a competition of who saved the most money on paying a consultant, taking the work in internally instead, or who saved the most time for one of our functions. And that's been a fun way to see how different people adopt it and to really motivate them to create workflow and vertical specific solutions.
It does sound really fun. That's great. So any, I know that AI tools at work are sometimes limited. Is there anything you're using personally that you're not using at work?
I just use Perplexity Comet, which we haven't approved at work. It's just basically an agent that can take over desktop control. I used that to book a vacation last week. I've used Lovable a lot just to create random fun projects. And I'm 30, so every weekend all my social activities are based around weddings. So I've used Perplexity a lot to create, or Midjourney to create these wedding posters that are just kind of like funny, making fun of my friend who is getting married or has a bachelor party. We all sign in. And I've started using the Meta Ray-Bans at weddings as well. It's like kind of an uninvasive way to record the moments for people without getting in the photographer's way. And that's been appreciated in some cases.
That's really fun. How did the vacation for go? Asking for a friend.
It was great. I think it booked some really shitty restaurants, but everything else was great.
And you could cancel those reservations?
Yeah.
Great. That's awesome. So looking ahead, where do you think AI is going to have the biggest impact on investing over the next 3 to 5 years?
I mean, from from a deal perspective, our firm talks a lot about like the ramp to certain levels of ARR. One thing we've kind of realized recently is we used to track how quickly a company would take to become a centaur, so 100 million ARR. And 7 years is like amazing for a SaaS application. And now, like what we're calling supernovas, or companies that get to 100 million ARR in 18 months. There are what we call shooting stars, companies that get to 3 million ARR in 12 months. So like the pace at which these companies are growing and getting insane valuations is like as fast as it's ever been. Because of that, the pace that we need to get to them also has to be a lot faster. And so Bessemer for years has been like bread and butter, Series A, Series B, but now we have a huge emphasis to get to stealth, pre-seed, someone who, you know, is approaching their vesting cliff, who hasn't yet left Google. So we're incentivized to do that because otherwise we get priced out of these huge deals.
Right.
And then there are also a lot of different, like I think about growth-based signal a lot, the products we build, and in investing, some of those signals are changing. So like having a ton of headcount growth that isn't always a super positive signal for these really early stage companies, because like now we're talking about people building a unicorn as an individual potentially in the next couple of years. So we have a lot of conversations about starting from kind of first principles, like what is a good signal that a company we should reach out to or is on the right growth trajectory, because it's not as simple as just fundraising and headcount.
Yeah, so getting AI to apply some creativity to that could really help.
Yeah.
Well, Alec, I could talk to you all day. This has been really great. Thank you so much for joining us at Campfire and sharing your thoughts on AI. I really appreciate it.
This is fun. Thanks, everyone.